So your wife punched you in the face?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the hour where there's nothing left to prove. Experimental lack of concern. Picture a perfect world being burned. This is the maniacal hour. Pure 100% underground. Powered by the emotion of self-passion. This is how we get down. Extra read all about it. Evidence coming to take control. Extra read all about it. Evidence coming to take control. Lock and load, steal souls and watch it explode. Dispatch the death squad and watch it go. Serial killers, cadavers, murderous psychos. As the hour goes, it takes the time. Expires as we live dead, revitalized. Surprised by the high with red still in our eyes. The pleasure is all ours to give you the power. This is the maniacal hour.
It is Saturday, November 20th, 2021, and you're tuned into The Blow-Off, presented by atmarkmedia.com and powered by the Hami Media Group at channelattitude.com. On this week's show, we're talking some late-breaking New Japan news for Wrestle Kingdom, Punk and Bryan's AEW runs, Survivor Series, Jay Lethal's AEW stock, more WWE releases, and surely a whole lot more. But before we dive in, it's my obligation to remind you this is a podcast by the fans for the fans, bringing you all the news that is news from across the professional wrestling world. Find the show online, theblowofppod.com. My name is Dr. Jargo, PhD, and I am joined by the man whose wife had to kick his ass to get him out of bed this morning. He's the COVID kid. He's the G.A.G. from the PWC. He's my man, Jimmy T. Welcome back to your show.
Why, thank you very much. And yes, it does seem like my missus has punched me in the eye while I was sleeping. I call that abuse. But in saying that,
beating you while you're asleep.
Yeah, how's that? But in saying that, it's me, Jimmy T of the PWC, and I am just pumped to be here. And apparently there's some late breaking news, right?
Jargo, but you went breaking news. And Jimmy, this is big late breaking news. We now know what is happening for night 3 of Wrestle Kingdom. Of course, nights 1 and 2 are going to be in the Tokyo Dome. It's going to be Kazuchika Okada versus Shingo Takagi, night 1 for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. It's going to be Will Ospreay versus the winner to finally unify the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. And Jimmy, I assumed it was going to be Kota Ibushi versus Kazuchika Okada, night 3 in Yokohama. That is not the case. Night 3 is going to be a fight. It is going to be New Japan Pro Wrestling versus Pro Wrestling Noah inside of the Yokohama Dome. This is going to be like a full-on both rosters against one another. We've already seen Kaito is calling out Okada. He's been wanting that match for about a year and a half now, so it seems like that's going to happen. Hiroshi Tanahashi also at the press conference, and he said 12 years ago, I wrestled the Great Muta in the Tokyo Dome. He wants Kaiji Muto inside of the Yokohama Dome. Jimmy T, this is big. Like, I don't know if the Western audience is going to realize exactly what's going on here, but New Japan Pro Wrestling versus Pro Wrestling Noah, this might actually be bigger in Japan than Wrestle Kingdom itself.
Absolutely. I've got a smile now from ear to ear. I mean, I can't hide the smile from my face. When did this happen? Just like in the last hour? Like,
literally overnight. I'm not exactly sure what time it was, but sometime between when we finished Uncaged last night and we started the Blow-Off, they had this full-on press conference.
Wow.
This is pretty big.
Wow, it's huge. Absolutely.
It's huge. It's going to be the biggest show that Japan has ever seen.
I'm looking forward to it, and that's great news because to break up those 3 nights, man, I think that third night, having Noah come into it, that is absolutely a masterstroke move. And, you know, obviously New Japan needed this, man.
It's good for both promotions, too.
Right. Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I can't wait.
Now, people talk about inside of the Western, like we've even seen a couple of guys inside of the WWE. We've seen guys inside of AEW. We want the real Forbidden Door open. We want an AEW WWE Super Show. I'm not sure that there's really that many people clamoring for that, but the talent likes to put it over like it's something that would be really cool to happen. The problem with these shows, whenever these happen, is they present real booking problems. Like, Kaito versus Okada, that's great on paper. Can't wait to see the match. Who goes over?
Kazuchika Okada, surely.
But
But Kato is good, man.
But how much does that hurt Noah if Okada goes over? You know what I mean? Like these are the challenges that these super shows present because everybody wants to protect their own talent. Like if you're going to do AEW versus WWE, it's not like you're going to get Roman Reigns versus Hangman Page because one of those guys has to win, one of those guys has to lose, right? I mean, everybody wants to protect their own talent and they just become political nightmares. Not like we haven't seen this happen before in Japan, and we know the Japanese pro wrestling culture is much closer together than what it is here in the West. But man, this is going to be a real problem for the bookers. This is going to be a real problem for the talent. Thankfully, we've got 2 months to get it figured out, but this is going to be a really interesting show to watch, not only what happens on the screen, but what happens behind the scenes politically.
Well, there's one thing. Do you see this thing continuing after Wrestle Kingdom saying to New Year's Dash? Because that all depends, you know what I'm saying?
Well, number one, I don't know if we're going to get a New Year's Dash with 3 nights of Wrestle Kingdom, which is very disappointing. New Year's Dash is my favorite show of the year.
Absolutely.
We have seen like Marufuji was in the G1 a couple of years ago representing Pro Wrestling Noah. Kenta is formerly the face of Pro Wrestling Noah. So it's not incredibly uncommon for the promotions to work together. This is going to be interesting. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if we end up with Kenta versus Marufuji at this show as the two faces of Noah face off. Like I could absolutely see that matchup.
And Marufuji is a star, dude.
Dude, that dude, holy, like people talk about Okada all the time. They talk about Tanahashi all the time. Talent that could come to the West and get themselves over. I truly believe that Marufuji could be a bigger deal in the United States than even Nakamura has become if he would come over to an AEW or a WWE. Like that guy screams sports entertainment in a way that Japanese pro wrestlers don't typically.
Right, and not just that, he reminds me of a hybrid between like a Tanahashi and Okada in many ways, dude. If you know what I'm saying. He's got kind of so he's kind of got both of their sort of attributes, and he does scream sports entertainment. I've always wondered when is he going to become a full-time New Japan wrestler, but you know what? To his credit, he's still over at Noah, man. So
I mean, he's hooked up in the office at Noah, though. Like, isn't he like the vice president of Noah at this point?
I believe he is. So I mean, dude, the guy's a star, and it wouldn't surprise me if because him and Okada, like I said, he does remind me a lot of Okada in some ways. You know what I'm saying? So,
but Marufuji can get himself over in 8 minutes. Okada needs 25. Like the Okada match. Every Okada match is this epic sort of level of storytelling where it's very much like true to the New Japan Strong style, the pacing of it and how everything works inside of the psychology. But Marufuji is something completely different. Like he can go out there and be Bryan Danielson, just kick your head in 8 minutes.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I'm pumped, dude. That is great news to hear straight off the bat. And I'm looking forward to what they book and who wins. It's going to be interesting. But one more quick question about that. Are we getting the whole night between Noah and New Japan? Is this going to be...
That's how it sounds. Inside of this press conference, that's how it sounds. Where they basically said, and the way they made it sound inside of the press conference, this is going to be a long show. Because they were saying, like a New Japan show is like 3 hours and a Noah show is like 3 hours. Well, this is going to be a Noah and New Japan show all at the same time. We're going to like split the two rosters, Raw and SmackDown, like the one time a year, right? Like it's Survivor Series, New Japan style. It sounds like this is going to be the entire card. And as you look up and down the two rosters, and perhaps we'll do this at some point before Wrestle Kingdom, there's a lot of really good matchups that we could see here.
Oh man, absolutely. And obviously if it is the whole night, that's even better because like I was saying, 2 nights already of straight up New Japan.
It's
The
a
third
lot,
night, it is a lot, but it makes you look forward to that third night now, and it's completely different from the other 2 nights. So, dude, if you want to call a show Wrestle Kingdom, well, this right here is Wrestle Kingdom, the
right?
epitome of Wrestle Kingdom.
Well, to an extent, because and we can kind of segue this into Survivor Series. The problem with Survivor Series, as far as I'm concerned at this point, is there's no stakes in anything. Like what do the winners actually win when it comes to Survivor Series? Oh, bragging rights. Bragging rights over what? You know, where
Brand supremacy, Jargo.
but it's kind of the same thing with Noah, right? Like Noah
Yeah,
and
yes and
New
no.
Japan, like what are the stakes for the two companies?
For me, well, I was going to say bragging rights, ironically, but no, for me, this is bigger than that, dude. I mean, let's be honest. SmackDown versus Raw doesn't feel special anyway. It never
No,
does, even if it's once a year. I mean, this right here. I mean, look, Noah has come into New Japan in the past. It's not anything new, including like All Japan and another promotion.
and to
Sorry.
be fair, New Japan has invaded Noah before too.
Yes.
Suzuki-gun was banned to Pro Wrestling Noah because they were such dickheads in New Japan Pro Wrestling that they didn't want to deal with them anymore. So they sent them over to Noah.
Right. And know what? They were there for like over a year, I
It was a
believe.
year, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was cool. And then when they came back to New Japan,
It was a big deal.
it was a big deal, right? So, man, look, for me, I just want to enjoy this, right? Where we go, who wins, I don't know. But all I know is I'm excited, dude. We need this in professional wrestling, but in particular, New Japan needed an injection of more star power, and out comes Noah, dude.
Well, we talk about how excited we are for this, and yet on Sunday, WWE is doing basically the same thing. It's Survivor Series, the one time of year where Raw and SmackDown cross over as if they haven't been crossed over all freaking year.
I was gonna say that.
Jimmy, are you excited for Survivor Series at this point? Because I I'm pretty well on the record at this point. I hate Survivor Series. I've always hated Survivor Series, and especially in the 2021 presentation of it, it's just so flat. Like I didn't think that you could make Survivor Series feel less important. And then they did Crown Jewel and had a draft. And so, I mean, everything is completely out of context, out of the narrative. It's almost like Survivor Series is now reestablishing what the narrative is going to be going forward for the next year for the WWE. And that's its role on the calendar.
Well, I'll tell you what will be Survivor Series, right? Is me actually being interested in watching it. You know what I mean? But in saying that, I will watch it. And yeah, it's not, there's no hype, there's no real build, nothing, no real stakes at hand. But that's the problem. I think they should have some sort of stakes. And I'm not talking about just simple championship matches. I'm talking like implications for, say, the Royal Rumble, or somehow change the format. If you're going to have like a Survivor Series style match, at least have some sort of implications on the teams with who wins and who loses and who loses. Sorry, I'm not saying that's how you should do it, but something like that. Give me something. Give me a reason. Why is it Survivor Series? It should be a tournament with a name like that.
Or at least go back to what it used to be. And I
All
mean,
that, right?
and the problem that I see it, and I figured this out the other night on the No DQ review at nodq.com. See, that's a plug. I'm a fucking professional.
Very
Um,
nice.
the problem is when Survivor Series started, if you go all the way back, right? It was the good guys getting their friends and their team of good guys to go against the bad guys and their group of friends that are all bad guys. There's
Right.
no overlap with the characters anymore. When you watch a WWE program, you don't see Roman Reigns interact with anybody on the roster that is not either his opponent or a member of the bloodline. Right? Like he doesn't have any friends backstage. The baby faces don't have any friends backstage, obviously, because nobody comes to save the baby faces when the baby faces are getting beat up. So the baby faces have no friends. Like we don't see Big E chilling with people backstage. Like if there was a team Big E, this is going to be his group of guys. Like,
Right.
you don't have that inside of WWE because it's so Saturday Night Live driven, where it's just segment, and there's no overlap inside of the continuity of the story. You don't have
Right.
like a Team Hogan where he's getting all of his buddies to go beat up Team Perfect, or the
Right.
Heenan
Yes.
family, where there's this other group of people. It's just randomly thrown together. It's not even important enough to be on the television anymore. They announced the
Right.
teams on freaking Twitter.
Which I don't know why. I mean, seriously. But you're right, man. Something needs to freshen up Survivor Series. I mean, you know what I would have done? Because you gave me an idea as you were explaining all that. I would have, like, for example, Big E, if he wanted to pick New Day, even though they're on separate brands, on his team, just say we had a Survivor Series top match, and he wanted to pick New Day on his team, he should be able to do that. Instead of having, like, two different brands going at it, because no one gives a shit anyway, right?
Nobody
Unless you're a
cares.
kid. No, nobody cares. Why not just do it that way? Friends versus friends, foe versus, well, not foe versus foe, but just have everybody with their pals, like you just said, and there's your Survivor Series card. I mean, does it really have to be SmackDown versus Raw?
I mean, when you look at Team Raw this year, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Austin Theory, and Bobby Lashley.
Wow.
What do any of those people have anything to do with one another unless they want to fight? Like, it's not even about the match. It's not about Team Raw versus Team SmackDown. It's, can Team Raw make it through this match? Will Team SmackDown implode during the match? Like, you care about the match inside of the match. You don't even care about the actual freaking match.
It's true, man. That's how they fucking want you to fucking look at it too. It's silly, it's stupid, it's dumb booking, dude. It is what it is. This has Vince written all over it.
And also the other problem is, battling for Team Raw, and the pride of Team Raw is Bobby
Pride.
Lashley and 4 other guys that weren't on Raw 2 weeks ago. Seth Rollins was on SmackDown. Finn Balor was on SmackDown. Kevin Owens was on SmackDown. Austin Theory was in NXT.
Jesus Christ, man.
So tell me how much Raw pride they have.
They've got raw pride. Yeah, they've got zero pride, all right? I mean, it's dumb, dude. You're right. It is what it is. It's silly.
On the other side, we have Drew McIntyre, Xavier Woods, Jeff Hardy, Happy Corbin, and Sheamus.
Oh, what a team.
So Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Austin Theory, Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre, Xavier Woods, Jeff Hardy, Happy Corbin, Sheamus. Who wins this? Like, who? The only one I can see worthy inside of the lexicon right now of putting over is Bobby Lashley. Everybody else just feels flat.
Yeah, everyone else is flat, and I want Lashley to annihilate both teams, for that matter. Why not?
Yeah, that sounds more appealing than just the straight up match. On the women's side, we have Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, Carmella, and Zelina Vega. Wow, what a team that is. Taking on Sasha Banks, Shotzi Blackheart, who they turned heel for some inexplicable reason, Shayna Baszler, Natalya, and the recently added on Twitter, Toni Storm.
Right.
What a big reveal that was.
Huge.
I hope Toni Storm wins this, but she's not going to. Can we please release Toni Storm? I mean, you're getting rid of everybody else, WWE. Like, can you throw me a solid and release Toni Storm? Because I would love to see Toni Storm back over in Stardom.
Oh, and she'll go there in a heartbeat. But see, it's funny you saying that. I mean, that would be such a dumb move to do that, right, for WWE. But now that you said it, it will probably happen. Give it another week. I'm sure we'll get another row
I mean,
of
they're
releases.
not doing anything with her.
I mean, look at her. Look at her butt, dude. That's what happens when you're sitting in catering for like how many weeks?
I mean, when I look at this, there is some really good talent here. Bianca Belair, I think, is a world-class talent. That's it for Team Raw. Team SmackDown, you have Sasha Banks, Shayna Baszler, Toni Storm. I'm going with Team SmackDown, but I mean, like, if they want to actually do something with Toni Storm, have her win this match. Have this be her launching point. Otherwise, just release her. so she can go to Impact and face off with Deonna Purrazzo, so she can go to AEW and face off with Britt Baker, so she can go back to Stardom and actually be the star that she should be. Like, either shit or get off the pot with Toni Storm.
I agree 100%, and I think she'd be a great acquisition for AEW, dude. I
For
think
anybody.
for anybody for that matter, but I reckon
she's the
AEW
top
really
10
need it.
talent in the freaking world.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that, because there's some people that just don't get it with Toni Storm. I'm thinking, really?
Oh, she's fantastic.
Absolutely. And she's Australia's pride and joy. Believe me, because there's a lot of crap that comes out of here.
As well, she should be. So yeah, I'm taking Team SmackDown in this one, which means Team Raw probably win. I mean, Carmella will probably be like the sole survivor.
Oh, no, dude. Shit. Look, on paper, I'm agreeing with you, Team SmackDown, but Carmella could be the sole survivor for Team Raw. Who knows, dude?
The rest of this card on paper looks really, really good. Like, this should be a good wrestling show. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Damian Priest. I'm a firm believer that styles make fights, and I think these two are going to blend together very, very well. RK Bro versus the Usos. That's a cool match. I wouldn't mind seeing Matt Riddle in there mixing it up with Jimmy and Jay before Randy hits a big RKO, because Randy Orton winning at Survivor Series. The women's championship match, as far as I'm concerned, should be the main event. It's the match with the most interest. It's the match with the most intrigue. It's the match that I'm going to watch the show to see. Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch, because we think it might turn into a shoot. That's why everybody's so damn interested in this match. And then you have Big E versus Roman Reigns, your two champions. That should be a good match. Like, on paper, this looks like it should be a good show. There's just no stakes, and I don't care who wins and who loses.
Well, first of all, when you brought up the man Becky Lynch and Charlotte, or should I call her Cher Flair, right? I'm sorry, but it's true.
It's getting bad.
You know, this is the only match that actually has a build-up. Unintentional build-up, mind you.
Yeah, it's all
still a
behind the
build-up.
scenes shit.
Right,
but yeah,
right.
we do have a build for this.
Right. So, I mean, this should be the main event, bar none. And you know what? I am interested. That match is what intrigues me the most. Sure, I've seen it a million times. Right. And if you add Ric Flair into it, because Ric Flair and Becky Lynch are also having a little war away from the...
But Rick is shooting and Becky's working. That's the difference.
I agree, man. And you know what? To be fair, I think there's a lot of work elements to this. Let's be honest. You know what I mean? Sure, there is a lot of tension, but we can't just forget that they're also best friends. You know what I mean?
Rick is shooting until there's a payday involved, and then it all becomes work.
Oh, he's still bitter because Becky Lynch calls herself the man.
I can't believe
it's true.
Him crying about that on Twitter. It's just like, are you serious? Come on, you're the nature boy Ric Flair. For the love of God, suck it up, bro.
How do you feel threatened by Becky Lynch when you're Ric Flair? But it is what it is, man.
It is, in fact, what it is. Austin Theory on this show kind of intrigues me too. It's just a little out there to see him already put into that kind of position.
Well, when you think about it, when he made his WWE debut, he was great in Evolve, dude. Like, I think he was very talented in Evolve. But he debuted on the main roster, then they put him in NXT just for him to come back to the main roster. I think he's got a lot of potential and a lot of upside for to him in the future, man, no doubt.
Of course, Austin Theory comes with his own baggage. He comes with his own set of problems politically, as far as some fans are concerned. And another guy that's kind of in that same boat is Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal now signing with AEW. And I gotta say, man, when I saw that Jay Lethal had signed to AEW, I thought, well, good. You know, I've been on the boat that they need to sign more guys like Tyler Breeze. They need to sign more mid-card guys that, you know, their main event talent can beat. Jay Lethal's a guy. Yeah, I could see that. Like TNT championship kind of level. Jimmy T, my opinion has changed. Jay Lethal's stock is very much on the rise. He got a great pop in Minneapolis. I was not expecting that kind of a pop for Jay Lethal. He goes out on Dynamite and he absolutely kills it with Sammy Guevara. Maybe my ceiling for Jay Lethal is going up a little bit at this point.
As it should, Jargo. Come on, man. You can't underestimate a guy like Jay Lethal now. I mean, the guy has got talent. I mean, when you look at a complete package, right? Sure, he's not in the upper echelon of talent, all right? Let's just be honest. But he's got every tool to succeed in this business. I mean, look at him. He can wrestle, he can talk, he's a star when if booked right. If he's a heel, he's a megastar. Although I don't like how he came out to the Black Machismo Macho Man type of theme at first, I cringed. I'm like, no,
It's kind of got
no,
that Bryan Danielson thing where it's
yeah,
got the
that
wind
too.
up for the Black Machismo thing, and then it breaks
Right.
into something else completely.
Thank God. Because I
Agreed.
prefer the Nature Boy Jay Lethal than actually Black Machismo, believe it or not, because I
I
think he does
prefer
that so
House of
good.
Truth Jay Lethal.
Well, that's preferably we want that. That's what we want. But will we get that? I'm not sure.
Would it surprise you to know that Jay Lethal is only 36 years old?
What?
He's only 36 years old. Now, granted, he's been wrestling for 20 years.
Absolutely, dude. And I thought he was like 38 to 40, to be honest, by now.
I mean, when you look at a lot of the talent, like he's younger than Malachi Black. He's younger than Cody. He's younger than Kenny. Maybe we have Jay Lethal just kind of pegged wrong because Jay Lethal's been around forever. He's actually very much still in his prime. He has not passed that in any way, shape, or form. And clearly he has a cachet already with this AEW fan base that I just wasn't expecting to be there.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I wasn't surprised by the reaction he got because he's interacted with a lot of these AEW stars, in the past. I'm sure the fan base know the history behind it. So, but man, 36 years old, he's at his peak right now. I mean, seriously, this should be his best years in wrestling right now.
And have they not been for like the last 3-4 years? I mean, he had Ring of Honor on his back there for a while. Everybody wants to give credit to the Elite, but Jay Lethal was killing it.
That's what people seem to forget. During that time where, it seemed like the Elite were carrying Ring of Honor, it was actually Jay Lethal that was carrying Ring of Honor on his back.
And the Briscoes.
And the Briscoes.
Jay
That's the heart and soul right there.
Jay in particular.
Absolutely, man. I mean, how long was his title run? Didn't he have 2 belts at one stage too?
Jay Lethal had both the TV title and the world title there for a while. He was doing a real Rob Van Dam kind of thing.
Right. I mean, people forget that. And you know what? I guess he was sort of in the shadows of the Elite at the time because really the Elite storyline was probably number one still in both promotions at the time. So that's, it is what it is, man. But I want to see that version of Jay Lethal in AEW where you take him serious because he's a great heel, dude. I think people don't give him enough credit at how well he plays that heel character, man.
Especially when he had Truth Martini to play off of.
Absolutely.
That was absolutely fantastic. And with Kenny Omega being out, it does seem like, everybody's kind of wondering, well, what do you do with Don Callis? Don Callis and Jay Lethal is a very interesting pairing to me because it would be very similar to the House of Truth, Truth Martini, and Jay Lethal.
Right. I mean, he'd be a great, seriously, he'd fit in easy. And I'm talking about Don Callis. But yeah, interesting. I don't know if that will happen. Hopefully, Don Callis actually hears this show and actually he does that because Jargo, you tend to get things very right, if you know what I'm saying. So who knows?
Well, I feel like they did kind of screw up one thing already. At the end of the match with Sammy Guevara, Jay Lethal kind of celebrates in the ring with the Inner Circle. He does the Code of Honor and everything. Right. I kind of, when Sammy came up with the handshake, I thought it would have been incredible for Jay Lethal, of all people, to not shake somebody's hand and just leave. I mean, like Jay Lethal, Mr. Ring of Honor,
Right. And
I thought that would have been fun, but I kind of felt like, wow, is Jay Lethal joining the Inner Circle? That's like,
oh no,
but that was kind of how it felt. Like, like Jericho's all hugging him and they're all raising their arms at the end of it. And I was like, this seems like a really odd kind of pairing to me. I don't care for that.
You know what's odd, dude? I could picture it. I can
I
actually
mean,
picture
I can
him.
see it. That's the
Right.
problem.
You know what, man? I didn't think of that. I should have thought of that. It just didn't cross my mind because I thought, nah, there's no, it's
Just the
not
way it
happening.
was presented felt really, really weird.
Damn it, Jargo. It's gonna happen now. It's gonna happen, man. And I don't want it to happen, but do they really need him? Why should he play second fiddle in the inner circle? I mean, come on.
Hey, I'm not saying that. And it's the faction thing is kind of getting out of control in AEW,
Out of control.
I'm a fan of factions. The problem is that they only go up to like 4 or 5 guys. That's it. And so then they just add another faction instead of like over bloating factions. And it feels like it's getting a bit out of control for me.
I mean, like Chris and I was saying, I mean, we got squares, we got straight lines, we got triangles that are not triangles anymore either. I mean, do we really need all this shit? And what? And still, I'm still puzzled at your boy Orange Cassidy being part of Chaos, dude.
That's all a tease for Okada. I mean, I really
Come
feel
on.
like that's clearly what's coming. They can't get Okada's name out of their freaking mouths.
Oh, dude. I mean, seriously, I'll laugh if Okada doesn't make an appearance in AEW because you know, just to be a little cock tease. But man, I'm waiting for the lights to turn off and then hearing that coin drop. I
Oh, the
mean,
place will
that
go nuts.
dude. I mean, I'm smiling thinking about it. It would be such a moment, and I'd be so pumped. I'm hoping we get that, man. If we don't, I'll be bitterly disappointed.
So let's talk about the WWE releases. I almost feel like we could make a Survivor Series team out of some of these names. Ashante Adonis must have been NXT. Drake Maverick, Isaiah Swerve Scott, Jackson Riker, John Morrison, Shane Thorne, Tegan Knox, and Top Dollar. Couple of surprising names on this list for me. Jimmy, did anything jump out to you other than the fact that we had another round of WWE releases, which I'm sure they will write up to budget cuts when they made $232 million last quarter?
They got to stop using that excuse, dude. Seriously, it's getting out of hand. But in saying that, yeah, I am surprised. And I am surprised there was another round so soon because I feel like now we're going to get even another round, which is rumors already of releases. So, what I'm surprised about is Hit Row. You mentioned Adonis at the start. He was a main roster superstar, as a matter of fact. And they did come from NXT. I'm talking about, what's his name? The dollar guy.
Yeah, Top Dollar and Swerve.
Top Dollar, Swerve, and Adonis. They were part of the crew called Hit Row, which came up from NXT into the main roster, but
Gotcha.
nothing happened. Right. But I'm surprised. See, for me, I thought Morrison would have requested his release because of his wife. But apparently that's not the case. Apparently he got fired, which surprises me.
Really?
In that sense,
Look at how they've
he
been
got
using
fired.
John Morrison. I mean, like, does it really surprise you that much?
Well, you're right. They haven't been using him lately, but they were pretty much all year. I mean, up until now. So, I mean, what's up with that? Why he was an asset to them, in my opinion. So, I mean,
Really?
why? Yeah, I do know. Really, it
I
wasn't
mean, I
long
like
ago.
Johnny Mundo, John Morrison, John Hannigan, Johnny
Johnny
Elite,
Drip
whatever Johnny Drip Drip, whatever, Johnny, whatever the hell you want to call him today. I mean, I like him as a talent, but he's one of those guys that I kind of like. If he went into AEW tomorrow, he's a guy that's losing to Sammy Guevara in the Open Challenge and then finding himself in the TNT division for the rest of his life. Like that's.
Oh,
I think he's a great talent, but I think he's a very weird guy who never really learned how to talk. And, you know, it's just kind of a weird gimmick.
You're right.
He's just kind of a weird, eclectic personality if you ever listen to any of his interviews or anything.
You know what? I'll be honest with you, Jargo. I've always felt like that about John Morrison. And I'll be even more honest. I really didn't care when he first got released from WWE. I was like, yeah, good riddance. Because like you said, he's a weird cat. But he changed my mind a little bit away from WWE. And I think this run, the second run, he wasn't. I liked him better. I could basically, I could put up with him, right? But in saying that, I agree with you. He's a weird dude. I don't know what to say about him. He's just a weirdo.
Like it
But
worked in Lucha Underground because everything was so animated, everything was so
right,
over the top. So you like, Johnny Mundo filming his movie and all this stuff
yeah,
with everything over accentuated worked for that character. The problem is that's John Morrison all the time. Like,
yeah. No, you're right. It's true, man. It's true. But where he goes from here, I mean, he's not young. I believe he's in his 40s right now.
yeah,
But he can still go. I think I can see him back in Impact Wrestling though. Although he could have signed with AEW before he signed with WWE, because he was on Being the Elite a lot. There was sort of hints that he could have gone to AEW.
he'd probably be a
Instead,
better character on Being the Elite than he would be on Dynamite. I mean, just personality wise.
yeah, well, all you see him do really on Being the Elite is flips off walls and just acting weird, straight up. That's what
That's
he's
John
doing.
Hannigan, though.
Right. Exactly. So that's what you see. But his wife, Taya Valkyrie is the one that I want to see where she goes. Could she end up in AEW? I think she'd be a great acquisition for AEW, more
I
so than
do
Impact right
too.
now.
I do too, but the problem with Taya Valkyrie is she is a freaking firecracker, and you're seeing it on Twitter right now.
Yeah,
Like, if
right. You're right.
Taya, if you want to go to AEW, if you want to have that platform, you need to invoke the wise words of the Ayatollah bin Hameen. Never miss a good opportunity to shut the fuck up. Because all you're doing right now is hurting your own stock and showing everybody what a loose freaking cannon you can be. And
No, you're
like
right.
it's not a good image that she's portraying to potential employers while she's just railing on WWE, as entertaining as it is for us as fans.
No doubt. I mean, she's becoming Reba Hardy, should I say?
Yep. That's
I mean,
exactly the comparison I used with Carly last night when I was like, you got to
oh,
watch out
really?
for Taya. Like, because like her and Reby, they're pretty close. Like, you don't piss that woman off.
Oh man, yeah, and that's a bad thing to do. Unless she's planning on not wrestling ever again, right? Then that's
Right.
one thing. But you're hurting your husband anyway by doing that. Look, she's hurt, dude. I don't blame her. If I was her, I would be very bitter because look at the build they did for her. Frankie Monet, ridiculous anyway. What was all that for? For nothing. Why did they even hire her? Lord knows.
Terrible timing for Taya. I
Yeah,
mean, she came
absolutely.
in exactly like what, just a couple weeks before, Hunter ends up having a heart attack. Vince ends up taking over NXT, completely rebrands the entire thing. Like, she just came into the company at a terrible time. And part of that is NXT and the format that it always has been. There's zero reason that Taya Valkyrie should have ever went to NXT. She should have immediately went to Raw or SmackDown because she's that good of a talent.
100% agree with you, man. And that's what I don't understand with her release. You would have thought Vince would have liked someone like her, but I guess
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he's ever really liked John Morrison. I think that's part
true
of the
too.
problem. Swerve, I think absolutely he's not going to have a problem finding work. I don't know about
Nah.
the rest of Hit Row, but Shane Strickland, that dude's going to find some work. The one that is really interesting to me, Shane Thorne, your boy, right? Like, because the mighty don't kneel, they're already talking mad shit on Twitter. Mikey Nichols, Jonah Rock, Shane Thorne, whatever the hell his real name is when he's outside of the WWE, like TMDK. I don't think those guys are going to have a problem finding work either.
The original TMDK, mind you.
Yeah.
And for our listeners, if I don't think they realize, I mean, if you follow the Australian indie scene, then you know. But TMDK has been a thing for many years, long before.
A decade at this point.
Yeah, long before any of them ever turned up in WWE. And I was hoping that we would get a sort of faction in WWE. Unfortunately, Bronson Reed, Jonah Rock, he came in a bit too late because Nichols took off back to Japan. So, yeah, man, I'm hoping we do get that. We will get that. There's no doubt about it. If you look at them as the original faction, they were a big deal in the Australian indie scene, dude. And I'm hoping to see that on a bigger stage. And when I say that, I'm talking about Japan.
Well, and Japan seems logical. Of course, Mikey Nichols has done a lot of work with New Japan Pro Wrestling over the course of his time since he was released.
Right.
Jonah has evidently signed with New Japan of America. He's going to be appearing on Strong, which, okay, yeah, I could see that. But so now we might as well bring in Shane too, right? And we might as well put the whole faction together. Hell, it wouldn't surprise me if they ended up in the Empire.
Ugh. I mean, do you really? I mean, I want them to have their own faction. Just TMDK.
Yeah, but you got to have somebody as the figurehead. Otherwise, it never gets off the ground.
Have Jonah Rock as the figurehead, possibly. I mean, he's a big guy. I mean, look at him.
Well, and that works if you're going to keep him on Strong. But I'm talking
Right.
about in New Japan proper, they got to have some kind of a figurehead if they're going to go over there.
Do you think is there a chance they could recruit a Japanese wrestler into the group?
Well, isn't Mikey technically a member of Chaos? I think.
Yes, no, he is. No, you're right. No, he definitely is part of Chaos. 100%. You're right.
So, I mean, maybe
Spot
we
on.
could just see, like a sub faction, kind of like, you got the Gorillas and or you had the Elite
Yeah.
inside a Bullet Club. Now you have the House of Torture. Maybe you just end up with TMDK as, a part of Chaos, like in a subgroup underneath.
Yeah. Whatever the case, that I'm cool with that too, man.
I'd be down with
Absolutely.
that.
I'm down.
Tegan Knox is the other name that really pops off the screen to me. And I hope that Tegan Knox can get a job somewhere else. And I think she is a fantastic talent. I think she can talk. She looks great. She's good in the ring. But that knee or knees, as the case may be, that is absolutely worrisome for any company looking to bring in Tegan Knox.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say this, Jargo, but I think she might be done, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
she's at this point, she's not reliable in terms of she's very injury prone, dude. You know what I mean? And those two knees are shot. Absolutely shot. And it's a shame because she is a good talent. But I don't know, man. Maybe AEW might give her a run, maybe. But if she does her knee one more time, she's gone, dude. So I mean, we'll see what happens. But good luck to her, though.
Especially after the WWE basically buried the UK independent scene with the launch of NXT UK, which for some reason is still a thing. Like I keep waiting for that shoe to drop.
See, and this is my issue. You release all these guys and girls, right? But yet we still got WWE NXT UK.
Yeah, like you would think the cost of running the UK Performance Center, the cost of the TV production, as well as the cost of the talent, like you would think that budget cuts,
Yeah.
you would just kill NXT UK, which I'm not really sure anybody cares about to begin with, especially since Walter lost that championship.
Yeah. Who's the champion right now?
It's Dragunov, isn't it?
Is he still champ? I don't even know.
I don't know. That's the last time I heard anything about NXT UK is when Dragunov won that championship.
And Dragunov is great. I love him, right?
Fantastic. Yeah.
Fantastic. But I don't even know if he's champ or not still. And who else is on that damn roster that's actually noteworthy?
Miko Satomura, Bea Priestley.
Oh, she's still there, is she?
Blair Davenport, I think is
Okay,
that her name.
I'll take that back. I'll take that back. I haven't watched any WWE UK.
I haven't watched any WWE in months, dude. I can't do it. I read through reviews and I watch some clips and stuff, and I'm just like, this is just not good. It's just not good.
I told you, I fall asleep watching the damn thing. I never thought I'd fall asleep reviewing WWE, but it's true. I fell asleep while reviewing Monday Night Raw.
That's freaking hilarious.
That is hilarious, man. That is hilarious. That's a first. Maybe I'll release the video for everyone to see, but in saying that, man, it's true. It's tough, dude. And yes, fuck the WWE. Shout outs to Michael Davies, a.k.a. A-Track Black. That's right. Yeah, so fuck WWE. It's tough, dude. I'm not going to lie. It's a chore. It really is.
A-Track Black, Taya Valkyrie, Tegan Knox. I know that you're a big supporter of women's wrestling. Where would you like to see him sign? Hit us in the chat room. Let us know. Jimmy T, really the only other thing that I had for this week is all this talk about Punk and Bryan and what's going on inside of AEW, has this been a good investment? I saw some numbers over the course of the last few days, and I don't think we can question this anymore.
Oh, that's right. You got the numbers, and I know what number you're going to say. And it might surprise a lot of listeners, dude.
What number do you think I'm going to say?
Are we talking in terms of Punk right now?
How much money do you think AEW has, how much more money has AEW made since CM Punk debuted than they would have made regardless?
Interesting. Well, I hear it's around the $15 million mark, right?
When you look at pay-per-view buys, when you look at merchandise sales, when you look at the complete package, everybody, oh, well, the TV ratings, don't worry about the TV ratings. When you look at butts and seats, when you look at merchandise sales, when you look at pay-per-view buys, it's around $15 million.
It's true, man.
If they paid CM Punk $2 million to come in, he has paid for himself over 7 times in his brief run inside of AEW. I think they're doing all right. Like, hey, IWC, can you cool your tits just a little bit?
And it's true. It's not all about the ratings, folks. All right. Look at the money that he's brought in for the company.
Don't get me wrong.
It is important, of course, no doubt. But that's everybody just concentrates on that aspect, but doesn't see what sort of revenue he brings in as a name. You know what I mean? Just as a name alone. So in saying that, I think it has been a successful investment so far.
A-Track Black saying both Taya Valkyrie and Tegan Knox should go to the AEW women's division. He's going to have further thoughts on that on the A-Track Black experience over at the PW Hustle Zone. That should be good. Look forward to that. We get so wrapped up in the numbers that we can look at week to week. And with AEW is not a public company. So we don't get these financial reports every quarter. But when you track these pay-per-view buys, All Out, of course, the biggest pay-per-view that AEW has ever done, they did around 200,000 buys. When you look at Full Gear, it's going to peak out when you look at internationals as well, around 155,000. They were hoping for 150. They would have been ecstatic with 175, but it's still up about 30,000 buys versus where they had been before All Out. 30,000 times $50 a pop is a nice chunk of change. CM Punk broke Pro Wrestling Tees. He broke their entire freaking website.
Literally.
We figured that he did about $5 million in t-shirt sales in 24 hours.
That's crazy, dude. That's nuts.
There's a lot of other metrics to be looking at here instead of, oh, well, TV ratings are down. Okay, well, are you taking into account that since the NHL started, Dynamite is airing on a tape delay on the West Coast? Are we taking that into account? Because nobody seems to be taking that into account.
And you know what else people don't take into account? And shout outs to our fellow colleague, Mr. Jeff Lippman. But we're having this discussion last week, and he claims that the Full Gear pay-per-view number is down, and it's a concern, right? And I'm like, but it's up from last year's pay-per-view, right?
It's up from every pay-per-view that they have ever done that wasn't called All Out 2021.
Well, he thinks it's a downward spiral. I don't know, Jeff. We love you, but man, what are you talking about, dude?
Well, there was not the hype going into Full Gear that they had going into All Out. But I mean, I feel like the more comparative number is from Double or Nothing, and they're up 30,000 buys from Double or Nothing.
It's true.
I call that progress when you're talking $50 a pop.
Yeah, $50 a pop. How much is that? Like 7 million all up?
Yeah.
Yeah, so and that's what they made from the pay-per-view. I mean, come on, that's success to me. I mean, just getting those sort of numbers in today's pay-per-view is something. Right.
Gross revenue, when you look at what Full Gear did this year versus what Full Gear did last year, they made about $3 million more than what they
Yep.
did last year. When you
But
consider
apparently,
ticket sales and merchandise and pay-per-view buys, they made about $3 million. If they paid Punk $2 million, they still made money off of one night.
I agree with you 100%.
Punk's doing all right. Bryan's doing all right. Adam Cole, his time's coming. It's coming.
I'm sure his shirts sold like hotcakes on the first night when he first appeared too, man.
I mean, I don't understand this infatuation with pro wrestling fans that if they are not satisfied with whatever the creative program may be on television, they're so into analytics without looking at all of the analytics that they
I know it's crazy. We're a crazy bunch of fans. You know what I mean? Let's be honest.
Like-
Professional wrestling is just a weird thing, man.
Are there football fans that track the ratings for the individual teams and then go on Twitter and they're like, well, you know, the Packers drew this many viewers and, you know, the Jaguars only drew this many viewers? Like, I know there's TV people that do that because they want to know which game to put on for the national game, but I don't see football fans discussing it. I mean, there are people out there who are doing minute by minute ratings, wanting to know what talent on the show drew the most viewers. And it's like, what the fuck? Just enjoy the show.
You're so
Holy
right, man.
Shit.
I'm so happy you said that because no shit, I don't think anybody has ever made that comparison. It's true. Do football fans track the... It's laughable now just saying this.
Like they want to know which receiver drew more viewers when Baker Mayfield threw the ball. Like, no, nobody's talking about that.
Dude, that is brilliant. That's got to be the intro next week. I'm telling you, you got to have that as an intro or a little snippet.
I mean,
and upload it.
What are we doing?
Yo, dude, if anybody hit the nail on the head with anything all year, it's what you just said right now. And it's true, man. That's like, it's true. I mean, I can't put any better. I couldn't have put it any better than you just did, dude.
Like, could you imagine during the World Series? And they're like,
oh
who do we want to start Game 7? Oh, well, you know,
ratings, bro.
we could start Verlander, but you know, I don't think his ratings are quite high enough.
Jesus
like, really?
Christ. I know why. It's true, man. And I guess that's thanks to the Monday Night Wars where we all have to I don't give a shit about the ratings. Honestly, I really don't. I don't track it. I don't look at it. Sure, I'm going to hear about it, but it really doesn't bother me, right? But I don't know. Everyone's obsessed, dude. That's the problem. Professional wrestling fans are obsessed with whatever aspect it is of professional wrestling. You know what I mean?
It's obsessed to a point where they're not only ruining their own experience watching the show,
which they are.
They're ruining other people's experiences in watching the show.
True. You know, I've seen it, right.
The IWC has just become this incredibly toxic place. And I mean, we're seeing it all across society at this point, regardless of what form of entertainment you want to pay attention to, whether it's politics, whether it's pro wrestling, whether it's pro sports. But this ratings nonsense. There's more. Right, there's more to it than just ratings, and it's
demos, bro. Demos. All right.
It's more than just, are you happy watching the product? Because the entire product is not all about you.
Ding, ding, ding. Well said, dude. Spot on.
Jimmy T, anything else that you want to talk about this week from inside of the world of professional wrestling? It's weird because, you know, coming out of Full Gear, everybody seemed like super hype. And now by the end of the week, between NXT 2.0, between AEW Rampage, like, I feel like we should be more hyped for this going into a big 4 pay-per-view weekend. But it's just, it
is.
Or wrestling.
Man. I just want Survivor Series to, like, absolutely take my breath away. Hopefully it won't, but I'm hoping. You know what I mean? I want this company to prove me wrong for once. Will they? I doubt it.
Expect better.
Right. I want to expect better.
That's all.
But when you expect better, you're just going to get bitterly disappointed. So I'm going to go into it thinking it's going to be crap, and hopefully I enjoy it. We'll see.
Every pessimist is a disappointed optimist.
Yep.
And that's
Facts.
going to wrap things up for this week's show. Thanks for listening and/or watching. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Then head over and find us online over at markmedia.com. Search Hitting the Marks on your favorite podcast listening device. That will bring up the entire feed still. Yeah, that's right. Still, you can find us over on Twitter at the Blow Off Pod. Find me at Not Jargo. Find him at DJ Mass Effects. Jimmy T, what's coming up on the PWC this week? Give people a reason to go find you.
Well, you know what? Me and Michael Davis are going to be doing a Rampage review. So there's that coming, which is Carnage. And yeah, we'll be covering every show moving forward right now. I mean, like we have been all week. So I'm looking forward to the Survivor Series recap. We'll see if it's good. Other than that, find me at DJ Mass Effects, as Jargo said, and at the PWC Network on Twitter.
Fantastic. We will talk to you next week for a new edition of The Blow Off. For now, we're off like a prom dress. See ya.
Peace.